Okay.
You on this?
Yes. Go for it.
I'm gonna play a clip for you, and I would like you to raise your hand and just tell me the first thing that pops into your mind.
Yo yo dine yo dine yo no dine yo dine yo dine yo no dine yo dine yo no dine yo dine yo no dine yo dine yo.
Anyone?
I couldn't place what language it was in.
Thought of Indians.
Okay.
Bun 5.
Well, that was in the Lakota language. It's the Native American tribe in South Dakota. This is a map approximating where all the Native Americans were before European colonialization. Lakota, you can see, is on the top part. Also on the map is some places where, some of their trading was going on, like Wounded Knee, and of course we have the Aztecs and Mayans from Mexico. This is a map of Indian reservations in, I believe, the 1950s, after colonialization took place. And the colored areas is where they would live. So it's a big drastic change from where they were spread out before. The largest reservation is right there. It's called the Navajo Nation Reservation. It's 16 million acres, and it's spread around Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. This is information from the BIA, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Also, not every federally recognized tribe has a reservation. So some of them are spread out in urban areas, but they're not really recognized as their land. Can anyone tell me what this flag is, or where it belongs? Okay, not many can. It is the official flag of AIM. AIM, the Native American Activist Organization of the United States. And AIM stands for American Indian Movement. Some history, this is their goal statement on their website. They are the catalyst for Indian sovereignty. They intend to raise questions in the minds of all, questions that have gone to sleep in the minds of Indians and non-Indian alike. They had various co-founders, which founded this organization in 1968. Two of them are Dennis Banks and Clyde Belcourt, currently in their late 70s. Some facts. In 1940, only around 8 to 10% of Indians were living in cities. And in 1950, on an average, Native Americans earned $950, while blacks earned $2,000 and whites $4,000. Brought to you by PBS. Unemployment rate was high among Native Americans, and the organization was founded based on the discrimination that had been going on and the federal Indian policies that took place, one of them being urban Indian relocation. This led to the creation of the organization. So this is one of the posters they used for the program, which was an initiative by the BIA in order to decrease unemployment. This is from a Denver location, and they reeled the Native Americans in by telling them that they would be able to get good jobs, happy homes with ownership, and they would get training or adult education, and that the beautiful places would provide scenery, parks, school, and education. However, that was not so. Because of the racial discrimination that was going on, many didn't want to hire Native Americans, and the feeling of non-Indian superiority took place a lot. So these were the areas where these urban relocations took place: San Francisco, Los Angeles, Salt Lake City, Denver, Dallas, St. Louis, Chicago, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. 4 to 5 years after the initiative took place, it was labeled as a failure because 50% of the Native Americans that actually relocated returned home. However, this was the greatest transfer of Native Americans outside of the reservations done voluntarily. Now, two of the main examples AIM is associated with was the Trail of Broken Treaties. It was a march in Washington, D.C. that took place in 1972. These are two pictures of them walking. Now, this was a moral victory because this was the first time Native Americans actually worked together as a group. They arrived in Washington, D.C. with activist Robert Burnett, and this was a protest for their policies before the presidential elections took place. They also walked in certain trails like by Wounded Knee and the Cherokee Trail of Tears in the Southwest in order of the representation of the suffering they have gone through. And once they got to Washington, D.C., they barricaded the BIA offices. 600 to 800 Native Americans stood there outside 7 days and created the Trail of Broken Treaties, which was 20-point civil rights movements they wanted to happen with the government. The last one is the Stage of Wounded Knee. Basically, the Native Americans were there to protest Richard A. Dick Wilson, who was a counsel that had gotten impeached and was noted for corrupt and nepotism use in his office. And one of the quotes he said about AIM was, "The only major Indian problem, bums trying to get their brains and mugs in the press." This is Wounded Knee now. At the Sage, which took 71 days, 2 Native Americans were killed, 12 wounded, and 1,200 was arrested. The chapel, which you saw here, was burnt down and is now just a tiny room in 2010.